We want to have an opening statement about what's going on. And of course, we know very well that the city of Detroit has been devastated by this economic crisis. We are facing a situation where they're claiming we have over a $300 million deficit, but what they're not telling us, and what the budget doesn't fully explain, is the amount of money, taxpayer money, that's actually being turned over to pay the debts of the city. And what we're here to do today is to ask for a moratorium on debt service payment to the banks on behalf of the city of Detroit as well as the Detroit Public Schools. And we got Attorney Jerome Goldberg, who's been researching this. And Jerry, would you want to make a statement?
Sure. You know, last week, Mayor Bean gave his budget address. And what was covered up in the address is where the real money in our budget is going. While he announced layoffs of city workers, 10% wage cuts for city workers, what wasn't talked about is the hundreds of millions of dollars appropriated in the city budget for interest payments to the banks. We went through the legal budget, the budget prepared by the mayor that's published on the City of Detroit website. And these are some of the figures that we took off the budget. $74 million is for what they call sinking interest and redemption. That's debt service to the banks. Debt service is profit to the banks. That's interest on loans that have been given to the city that the banks are making money on. $96 million goes for what's called the POC swap hedge payment 209. We believe what that is that when the city defaulted on $400 million in bonds at the beginning of this year, the banks demanded that the casino tax dollars go directly to the banks. Not a penny of the casino tax dollars goes to the city budget. It goes to a receiver who turns them over to the banks. $164 million goes to interest on water bonds. $207 million goes to sewage bond interest. Think about it. That's almost $400 million going on interest from the water department at the same time that our water rates go up constantly, that the city can't afford an affordability program, a water affordability program, and that 45,000 people have had their water cut off. The banks get the money, the people get cut off. We say these banks owe the city of Detroit. Yes. These are the same banks that have destroyed our communities with foreclosures based on racist, predatory, subprime loans. Yes. The news has shown the last couple of days, Lehman Brothers, fraud. Goldman Sachs, fraud. Every one of these banks is guilty of fraud and racism. 85% of the mortgages in Detroit are subprime mortgages. They're mortgages with inflated mortgage rates why people can't pay them. So the same banks that have destroyed our communities, that have destroyed the tax base of the city, now demand that the city budget be turned over them and to lay off city workers to pay for the debt, for their money. We say no. Under state law, the mayor and city mayor has the authority to declare a state of economic emergency. We need a people's economic emergency. And under a people's economic emergency, he can put a formal request into the governor to put a moratorium, a halt on foreclosures, a moratorium, a halt on evictions, a moratorium, a halt on utility shutoffs, a moratorium, a halt on school closings. In the 1930s, we had a 5-year moratorium on foreclosures in Michigan that was declared legal by the U.S. Supreme Court. We say it's time for the mayor and city council to stop kowtowing to the banks, to stop using our tax dollars to pay off the banks, and to stand up to the banks and corporations who are destroying our livelihood by putting the needs of people first and saying we come first, the people come first, the banks come last. Put a moratorium on debt service, guarantee our rights to housing, education, schools, and jobs.
Yeah, what we're saying also is that we're in opposition to the efforts to downsize the city, to so-called right-size the city. These are ideas that are not coming from the people of the city of Detroit. They're ideas that are coming from the banks, from the multinational corporations, which have stripped the city of Detroit, which has looted the resources of the city of Detroit for decades. And we reject what these people are saying. We totally reject them. We think there should be a moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, and utility shutoffs to keep people in their homes, not to run people out of their communities. This is not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to be a disaster for the city of Detroit and a disaster to the people of the city of Detroit.
It really is.
That's right.
Here we are in a census year. It's 2010, where every head in the city of Detroit is supposed to be counted. Yet, what we hear coming from the government, from the governor's office, from the mayor's office, from the emergency financial manager, from the DPS, is downsize, to close, and to remove. Doesn't sound like they want an adequate census count here in the city of Detroit.
I know, right?
It sounds like they want to take resources away from Detroit even more. This is why we oppose any effort to downsize the city.
Right on.
It's coming from outside. It's not coming from the people.
Right on, brother.
Dave Bing is speaking on behalf of the banks and the multinational corporations. He has not even consulted one community organization.
And that's a damn shame.
Not consulted one block club. Not consulted one church leader. One union leader in this city. He only consults with the banks, with the Kresge Foundation, with the Citizens Research Council, and these other groups that have traditionally destroyed everything that people have fought for here in this city. And we oppose that.
Right on.
So we want a moratorium on foreclosures, evictions, utility shutoffs, school closings, and any effort to right-size the city of Detroit.